Hey YouTube, welcome to my channel. It's a metal thing. I do metal fabrication, mostly furniture, some car stuff. I'll be building a car on the channel. Anyway, I'm posting up this video. It's kind of a throwaway video. It's one that I did this last weekend for a bench for my house, for the entry for my house. Part of the reason it's a throwaway video is I was hammering metal. It's really loud with the air chisel. The Apple iPhone microphone does not like loud sounds. Eventually it'll shut off. I know that from previous videos that I've made. I have a bunch of videos in the queue that I've worked on. So what happened was, you can see I walk up to the camera and shut it off without even talking, because I know it's gonna be an issue. What happened was, I started the next segment and there was no sound on that one either. I wasn't paying attention. I didn't even check till after it was all done. So this is basically just an exercise for me to do all the editing and take from editing to load it onto YouTube. So eventually this will probably be deleted, but it's just an opportunity for me to get my toes wet and try it out. So hopefully you like the video and understand what the situation is. Let's play it. All right, welcome to It's a Metal Thing. So I've been remodeling my house for a while, a long time, years. Just jumping around from project to project, doors, baseboard, did the flooring, redid the kitchen. So now we're just kind of furnishing it. So we need a bench or an entry table. The problem that we have is, as you walk into our house, the garage is on the right side of the door. So there's a partial wall there, and then it turns and goes into what would be the family room. I want something in that space, but it has to be, when the door is closed, it's in the middle of that wall. So it's 116 inches, the swing of the door, blah, 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 blah. I have 42 inches to work with. So when the door is open, it won't hit the bench. And when it's closed, it's in the center of that wall. So I have 42 inches to work with. I have some 1/4 inch, I'm gonna make a little bench to put my shoes on when I get up and go out in the morning, and then put a little shelf on the bottom to put shit on. My wife likes putting shit on stuff. So what I got is, I have a bunch of metal left over, or I'm still working on another big job. You'll see it either before or after this, probably after this video. I got 1/4 inch plate I cut. I went 13 by 40, so that if it's in the middle of the wall, there'll be an inch gap between the door and this bench. I don't want it sticking way out. I don't want it much more than 30. That's plenty big for my fat ass. The 1/4 inch plate won't need any support. It'll be clean and sanitary. I'm actually going to use, I don't even know what this is. This is 3/4 maybe, half, 5/8. Anyway, I'm using that for the legs, so it's going to be really sleek. The problem that I have now is, when you buy a plate, it's made that way. It's happy that way. It's born that way. Wants to die that way. But typically it doesn't. So when you start cutting into it, it starts doing weird shit. So this has a bow in it, pretty good bow. I can't have that. There's a bunch of ways to straighten it out. If I had a big enough roll, I could roll it. You won't see the bottom of this. It'll be so low. It's only going to be 18 inches off the ground. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to hammer the bottom with this air chisel. What that'll do is, it'll pull the metal up, flatten it out. You won't see it because it's going to be the bottom, but I'll work it till it's flat. It won't take long. Let's get out of it. All right. Took this grinder, put in a cut-off wheel, cut these corners. Came back with a piece of scrap, just making sure that the notch is right. It's flush, so it looks good when it's welded together. I'm gonna set the shelf at 3 inches, so I came off here with a square, clamped some flat bar on there. That's a little off. I'll double check all my measurements. It's gonna be a little wonky. I'm gonna just get it, kind of everything in place, manipulate it, move it, clamp it, suck it around, double check everything, and then I'll tap it. This is heavy. It'll be a heavy bench. Okay, a little wide here. This is good here. I'm not sure on square yet. I'll measure that. Just got to double check my height. So that should be 2 3/4 with this plate on here. Get that first. That's pretty good right there. That is good right there. This could go up a little. I'm going to move this up a little. I'm going to put another clamp on there. It doesn't move. Find one. I wasn't sure if that was tight enough. Alright, so over here. We're good. A little high maybe. Over here. We're good. So I'm going to actually tap this down. Alright, so those are good. This is wide. I'm going to clamp this together. Get it tight. Now that I did that, it's possible that the height changed, so you got to double check that. Get these tight in here. So it did move down a little as I was sucking it up. Good there. High. There. This is good over here. I'm gonna suck these together. They're already tight, but I'm just going to make sure they stay tight. Okay, so cross measure, we're at 41 15/16. We're at 42 1/16. So it's probably okay, but since we're here and you guys are watching, I'm gonna suck this in a little. Not long enough, of course. Clamp. If you look hard enough, the shop is wasted. I used to work like this all the time, but I got sober and I cleaned my shop up, and it's been super clean ever since. It's just I'm working on this big project, a restaurant job that you'll see, and it's just an excuse. I should clean it every day, but I don't. But when that job is done, I'm actually going to go today and put in the last. What's going on? Put in the last bar tops today. So what do we got? 42. 42. All right, so I had some 3/8 by 1. I cut those. I cleaned them up. I put them in there. It's not centered, but I knew right away I didn't like it. So I had some, this is 3/4 by 1/2. So I'm gonna go with that. What I'll probably do is I'll just lay a good bead in here when I get it all centered up, and then I'll just make it so it looks like it's just a part of it. So I'll grind a angle on all of them, clean that up. But I can't do that right now. This was kind of a spur of the moment kind of thing. I need to go up to Elk Grove. This is the last of the bar tops that I have. So these are oxidized steel, so that's gonna be the same finish I'm gonna put on that bench there. So I just need to go up, really just get these up and get them on site. Tomorrow I'm gonna go up and weld them and finish them, putting a finish on, touch up the welds. So I might come back today and finish this, but you'll see it in the end of the video. I'm just taking. All right, here's the welded one prior to me grinding. So what I do is I grind the flat first, all the way around, establish this plane or this surface again, and then I come back and I grind it at an angle, trying to keep them all, get them all the same. So that's gonna be the finished product. When it turns all black, it'll be barely noticeable. But so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grind that one, all the other three are ground. I'm gonna grind that up. I'm gonna come back and get some of these sharper edges. There's some sharp edges. I don't want anyone snagging themselves on. Maybe deburr these a little bit. And then I'm gonna start putting a finish on it. I'll show you that. That's coming up. All right, so happy with it. Smooth it up. It's ready to go, ready for finish. The first thing I do when I finish it is degrease it. I liberally soak it with super clean. This is some of the best degrease that there is out there. It almost actually etched the metal. So the reason I degrease it first is the acid does not like oil. It won't sit on the oil, so it'll do like a fisheye thing. It'll pull up away from it'll repel. So then that makes it really kind of splotchy. Another thing too is this is going to be kind of a funky finish in that I'm going right over the scale, because you can already see the scale itself is already funky, and that stuff will show up. Plus two, in the process where they make it, when it comes out, the way it cools, even like the outside edge is darker than the inside. This isn't as durable, right? The hotter stuff on the inside. So when the metal comes out in this hot roll, obviously it's cooler around the edge. So what that is, this gray scale on here is actually oxidization. It's turned to carbon. And the carbon's hard. So if you're looking for a smooth finish, you need to take this scale off. I use muriatic acid, but that's for another time. This is gonna be a funky finish. Kind of want it funky. I want it splotchy. I don't want it too weird. I'll show you what I do later, but I'm gonna let this sit for a minute. I'm gonna hose it off and then blow it dry and then move on to the next step. All right, so the next is degreased and I blew it dry. For this job, you're gonna need an air hose and a compressor and a blowgun. It's important. Not so much on this first step, but later on when you start to do the acid. The reason I'm doing the lacquer thinner now is because of there's paint on here for one, and sometimes when sometimes the metal has ink on it, like ink stamps, so you want to get all that off. Unless you want like an industrial look, you can leave that stuff on there and leave markings or whatever. So anyway, I'm gonna wipe all this red paint off and dry it, and then on to the next step. All right, so it's degreased, it's lacquer thinnered. I went over with 80 grit DA to knock down any like little gnarlies. This is the concoction that I use. I use both of these. Each one works differently. Each one works different ways, as far as like one will do one thing and one will do the other thing. Over the years, I used to use this entirely, but then I found this. So this kind of works and this kind of works, but together they work. This is regular gun bluing solution you can buy online. This comes from metalfinishersplus.com. This is from Sculpt Nouveau. Both you can order offline. I use both of them again. You need a acid resistant squirter. You can get those at any janitorial supplier. You could probably order them offline. Okay, so I just try to get it wet from one end to the other. You're trying to keep it wet. The more splashy it is, because as soon as it hits, it starts to turn. So I'm just trying to make a wet edge. If you can do it horizontal like this, if you do it vertical, it will streak. So you have to get it really wet and keep it wet. If you're doing it vertical, kind of start at the top and work your way down, but you will get some streaking. So then I just put this on, wet, get all these edges, get all the corners, get all the edge over here. Change the spray a little bit. So I'll show you what's happening here. You can see that turned black. That was ground silver earlier. So now it's black. It's doing some funky stuff where the raw metal is, which is okay. On this, it's like kind of want it funky. Like I said earlier, if you want it a more even finish, you have to strip the scale off. I'm going to pressure wash this, and I'll show you what it looks like. All right, so blow dried. It is a little orange. That'll get darker with the next coat. This is a different situation here. So you can see how it kind of blackened where it was silver on the corners really well. This particular, the blue stuff, reacts differently to the scale than the Sculpt Nouveau. You have to blow dry in between. If you let it dry, air dry, it'll rust. It'll turn like this is a color of the finished product. When you clear over, it changes too. It gets darker and this kind of goes away. I'm going to go over again now with Sculpt Nouveau. Go over real quick. You got to shake this stuff up before you use it. It's really thick. Basically the same thing, just working my way across, keeping it wet. I'll spray it far away to try to cover more area. You can, tighten the tip and make it more aerosol if you like. So just wetting the shit out of it. Down here, same thing. You can use a paint gun. Gotta wear a mask though, man. This stuff is not very good to breathe. Today's not a real good day to be doing this either. I mean, it's foggy. It's hard to get it to dry. This isn't the ideal conditions by any stretch of the imagination. But it is what it is. I'm gonna actually surprise my wife with this. She doesn't know I'm building it. So this is kind of a little surprise. She's been looking for a bench, like I told you earlier, and this will fit perfect. Hopefully she likes it. She doesn't like it when I build stuff. I say I can build that. She's usually really happy, but yeah. Anyway, so I'm going to let this sit for a few minutes. I'm going to pressure wash it and show you the product. All right, you can see now that it's darker. It's a kind of a different color, gray, a little more bluish, if you will. These little spots have come from the freaking fog. So on the last blowdown, I'm going to move it inside so I don't get that. So now what's happened though is you can see the color kind of comes away from the raw metal a little bit. And you can't really see now, but when it's shiny, you can see the silver showing through because the second acid kind of took away some of the first acid. So then what I do is I go over again with the blue stuff, and that's pretty much the final deal. I'll pressure wash it, I'll pour it inside, I'll blow it off, and then we'll move on to the next thing. All right, I hosed it off, blew it off, with this fog and the chill in the air. And man, it doesn't want to dry off. It took forever. So I went and got some propane from my shop heater, 32,000 BTU. So when I want to touch it up, like say there's some spots that I don't like, and I want to touch it up, I, like say, right down here, see that's pretty noticeable there? So I'll get this paint, it's cheap, it's quick color from Harbor Freight, it's like $1. The good thing about it is it's not really thick. So you can just like pull the trigger and kind of mist it. I don't want it completely gone, but see, it's so much better, right? It's less noticeable. So if I go around and I want to, hide some things prior to clear coat, I use that. I'm gonna let this thing get warmer, get some heat in this metal, and then I'm gonna put a coat of clear lacquer. I'll show you that next. All right, dried it out, put the heat on it, got some temperature in it. It's still pretty warm. Flipped it on its back, put some lacquer on the bottom and on the inside of the bottom legs. This is what I'm using. I use just wood clear lacquer. It's reduced like 200%. I put a really thin coat on. If you put too much on, then it'll scratch, right? And it'll turn white. You'll notice it. This is super thin. It'll work good for what I'm doing. It might need some attention later. You just gotta pay attention. This is a good indoor finish, not real good for outdoor. The thinness of the clear, it seems counterintuitive, but it actually seems like it's more durable that way. A lot like when you would go get a brass doorknob plated or whatever, they actually pour clear on it. And the clear is super thin, like really thin, like water. It pours off. It's so thin that it doesn't even like show run marks. It's just like crystal clear. Kind of the same idea. Let's shoot some clear on it. That's it. Let it dry. You're always going to look at it right away and say, oh my gosh, there's this, that, and the other thing. Let it dry, especially with these matte clears. You'll be surprised and happy. So I'm going to let it dry and then take it home. All right, so The bench is done. Little quickie project for me, for my house. Banged it out in a day and a half. You saw the video. I'm happy with the way it turned out. It's clean. The oxidation turned out good. I made it this size because we were limited on the wall size. It's the entry to our house. Had to worry about the door. Plenty of room, went 40 inches wide. I think it's like 14 and a half high. So overall, a quickie, fun little project, something anyone can do. If you like the video, subscribe. Check me out on Instagram. It's a metal thing. Catch you on the next project. Okay, so that is my first video. I know it's shit show between the battery dying and the phone actually full, completely full. I couldn't record anymore, so but like I said, it's just a throwaway. It's the first one. The other ones will be a lot better, I promise. In the background here, you can see some of this stuff I will be working on. There's a 61 Ford Falcon outside with a Coyote motor coming. So anyway, if you're interested, check out my Instagram page. It's a metal thing. It has a lot of photos and short videos of some of the product that I've done, and some of the videos that I've made, pictures and short videos are on there. So if you're interested, check it out. So thanks for your patience. See you next time.